to Flite Test. I'm Josh, and this is Peter.
Hey guys.
And as you guys know, we do a lot of scratch builds here, and we use hot glue a lot, don't we?
All the time, yeah.
All the time.
So it's kind of essential to know like how to use hot glue, what it's capable of, what it's not. So here's a video on quick tips, I guess, with hot glue.
One of the first things that you're going to take careful note is what hot glue to use.
Yeah.
Now, we use a lot of really big builds here. We build everything from Krakens to even the big cruisers and a lot of the bigger planes.
Even the microwave, too. The microwave's built out a lot of hot glue and tape.
There you go. And you need a hot glue gun that can supply enough hot glue so it doesn't cool down before you're ready to join the two pieces together.
And even having multiple glue guns running simultaneously usually helps because these things have thermal mass, and after you put too many hot glue sticks to it, it can't keep up with the...
What is thermal mass?
Basically how much heating elements inside of the hot glue gun.
And then eventually cools down because there's too much stuff pulling through
Like
it, right?
the smaller glue guns with the smaller diameter sticks, they'll cool off way faster than the bigger ones.
Okay, cool. My favorite gun so far right now is the AdTech. It's a Pro 200, and this is not a commercial, by the way. We got this sent to us by AdTech when you were actually talking about foggy glue sticks,
Yeah,
right?
I think they got mad at that.
Oh, no, actually,
they did.
They acknowledge it, and they actually want to work with us to find the perfect glue stick for our application. But they also sent down some different guns. This gun is amazing, and it's readily available. If you can find it, and you don't mind dropping about $40, you're never going to need another hot glue gun.
Well, speaking of dropping, I've dropped that one a couple times, and it's still running.
It's running great.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't cracked the element or anything. So.
Well, the thing I love about it is it can deliver a lot of hot glue, but it doesn't make the glue boil. And that's a big thing with hot and low glue guns with two different temperatures. If you use the wrong temperature setting, sometimes the glue will boil. Yeah. And that's if you put a low temp stick in a high temp glue gun?
Yeah, but most people don't worry about that nowadays because most glue sticks are now just
multi-temp.
Yeah, multi-temp. It's kind of hard to find actually standard high or standard low temps.
There you go. So be careful though. If you're picking out your glue stick, make sure you pick out a multi-temp or a high. That's very, very important to use. Also keep in mind when you're gluing, you don't want to be burying your nose into the Depron or into the foam because oftentimes it'll melt that.
Yeah, and the hot glue guns, because this is a high temp gun, so basically it will actually melt most general foams out there. Like Depron, it'll smelt.
Yeah.
Raw EPS styrofoam, it'll definitely go right through, and even the foam board will burn through a little bit.
You can see it just digs right in. So the idea is as you're laying down your glue joints, you want to go ahead and let that coast it, but you don't want to go ahead and dig it down in there.
Don't completely smear it in there. You'll just make a mess out of the foam.
Exactly. I really like this gun. So keep in mind, a low temp or high temp, it's good to have it selectable, but if you're using a low temp gun, you're probably not going to get the span that you need in order to cover, like, say, a wing spar on a 60-inch wing.
Yeah.
So picking your gun is very important. I strongly recommend don't pick just a low temp gun. If you're going to have it selectable, that's fine, but go with something that's selectable or high temp.
Yeah. And even what I used to do before having a dual temp gun, I would just plug the hot glue gun in the high temp one, and then unplug it after X amount of seconds, and just you can vary it. Yeah. That's how I got away with it for bonding large surfaces.
These ones do an excellent job because they hold a huge amount of glue, and you can really make those long runs without losing the temperature.
Yep.
So if
this is a really good one for that.
If you're scratch building a lot, like I said, this is not a commercial, but I absolutely love this gun right here. All right, so hot glue sticks though, they go in the gun. Those are very important too, right?
And actually, some people actually noticed in the forums too that there's been a different batch of hot glue sticks out there from AdTech.
Yeah.
Because they released, what would you say?
That's actually what made them contact us, because in one of our build videos we said don't go with the fuzzy, foggy sticks. Go with the clear sticks and find them because there's a bad batch that doesn't work very well.
You can kind of see the difference between the good and the bad stick. The bad stick is the more foggy-esque type stick.
Yeah.
And the good one is it's more translucent. You can kind of see the difference between them too. It's really hard to see on camera though, but it's more easier to tell in real life if you have the two sticks side by side.
If you stick your finger behind it and you kind of see your finger through the stick, you know you're in good shape. If it's foggy, you won't be able to see your finger through the stick. Peter, now you showed us a really cool trick.
Actually, I learned it from the internet.
Learned it from the internet, and we learned it from him on how to add another glue stick. Because one thing is when you run to the end of your glue stick, you always have to have an extra one, but they don't stay solid, do they?
The way this thing works, the latch, it doesn't keep it in there until the glue stick goes into the gun. So sometimes if you're gluing at weird angles, the stick will fall out, such as this. Stick in there. Let's say I was gluing something. I go too far back and it falls out.
Done.
So now you're stuck doing this and glue's not going anywhere and you're frantically panicking because you're trying to glue something. But here's one way to stop that. I usually just take this, just melt it ever so slightly and stick it in there. Bond it to the end of the stick. After a few seconds, you should be good.
Now you officially stuck the stick.
Yep, you stuck the stick.
Now, one thing when you're applying glue, obviously a butt joint is very easy. You put the piece down and you stick it on directly. But oftentimes, you're going to go along the seams, and on a lot of our builds, you're going to do that too. Now, you don't want to just, you see me running with my finger, you can just run it down here. My hands have no feeling in them. So
I still got some feeling in mine.
A lot of people come up and they say, thanks for the blister Bixler, and they're mad at me. A gentleman back at Joe Knoll many years ago, it was a young gentleman, he actually licked the tip of his finger and used that as a boundary layer to keep that heat from dissipating in there. And that's pretty darn simple. So say we're going down through here, we'd simply apply the glue, then you can lick your finger and then drag it along. Now, it's hot. And this is another thing. You can actually roll this in your fingers. That's my
favorite way to do it. I don't even bother licking it. I just wipe it really fast and then rub my hands together, dissipating all the heat real quick and keeping it from burning me. It also keeps it from sticking to one part of your skin.
Now, say spittle grosses people out, just keep a cup of water around, dip it in water, and run it down there. It's the same thing as licking your finger. Basically, that water creates a little bit of a boundary layer, doesn't let that heat dissipate through as quickly, and then just rub it off your fingers to make it dry quickly. So another thing is if you have lots of scrap foam board, and everyone does, simply go ahead when you apply your bead, just take a scrap piece of foam like a rectangle. I like to actually have these cut in rectangles, and just scrape it using the corner of that, and scrape it right off. And as long as the glue is nice and hot, you can go through there. Keep in mind though, is if you have any kind of dirt on your whatever you're squeegeeing with, whether
it'll
your
go
fingers,
right on your plane.
It'll go right on your plane and be an ugly joint. So try to use some fresh virgin foam to rub on that glue joint. Oftentimes, because we use foam board so much, you do have this issue where sometimes the paper will peel, and you don't want that to be the case. One simple thing you can do is take the simple scrap piece of foam, and we showed this on previous tips before, but it's always worth going over. And especially if you're going to waterproof your plane, say with Minwax or with Camp Dry, you want to seal your edges the best you can. Take a piece of foam, cut a notch in it, about the same width as your foam board. Now what you can do is you can lay a bead of hot glue down, take your notch, then drag it, scraping off all that excess. What this will do for you is it's going to actually do two things. It's going to push the foam into that front leading edge. It's going to seal the edge of the paper. It's even going to round it a little bit.
It looks really cool.
And it makes a really good, strong joint. When I build the Krakens and a lot of the planes I want to keep around for a while, I'll actually trace the whole entire perimeters and just keep a whole bunch of these notched. As a matter of fact, on our Snowball mod kit, we include a whole bunch of these, and also in our Kraken Speedboat kit, we include a whole bunch of these too.
Nice.
Another common thing with foam board with this paper here is when you have a hinge and you want this to last a long time, it will last, but say you have a couple of crashes
or
and
it peels out.
Exactly. The paper will start to separate. And one thing we show in all the videos is about using a scrap piece of foam to actually reinforce with the hot glue. And to do that's very, very simple. I like to keep this just notched ever so slightly and keep my tip right on that paper.
Yeah, and also you're not over gluing it either.
No, very, very thin ribbon of glue, because we're going to be scraping most of this off. And now I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag this along, scraping 90% of that glue right out of there. Then I'll just take a clean edge and keep on scraping over this so all that glue is removed. Now what I don't do is let this go ahead and close on itself. If you do that, you're going to have a nice glue joint that's very, very strong. Another thing too is if this is a little bit tacky, some glues actually remain tacky. You can actually take a little bit of talcum powder
and wipe it on there.
Go right over there, and it'll take that tackiness away. Now we talked a lot about putting hot glue on things.
But what about taking it off?
Taking it off. Say you have some servos you got to remove from an airframe. You don't want to destroy the airframe, or a control board from a multi-rotor. You definitely want to be careful on how you remove it.
Or even just foam too, because sometimes some of these methods are good for foam. I mean, there'll be a little bit of scarring depending on the type of foam. Like foam board paper will always slightly come off, but you can get off without doing too much collateral damage.
Now one thing you can use is a heat gun. You know, obviously heat is used to apply the glue. You can use it to take it off, but I wouldn't want to go up to a foam board airplane and try to
start smelting it, or even a control board. Unless you're trying to refill the solder or something.
You got it. So other components like metal components, metal to metal and stuff, that wouldn't be so bad. But in this case, we don't want to use this. Or say you're removing hot glue from plywood. Say you have an element firewall and you want to remove it from an airframe that you've crashed. You want to move it nice clean. Heat up the plywood, remove it. You can also use it for preheating. But you have a better solution, don't you?
Yep.
What is that?
Denatured alcohol. I've actually learned this one from the automotive guys. My dad's in the automotive field. When they do dent removals using like stud pulling, they'll actually glue the puller to the car where the dent is and pop dents out. But when it comes to finishing that, they need to get the stick off. So what they do is take a little bit of denatured alcohol, swab it on there, and it'll fall off without damaging the car.
And it works remarkably well. Matter of fact, you got a couple examples here, don't you?
Yep. While you guys weren't looking, we'll get things to the microwave. These are pretty stuck.
Yeah.
Like,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's on there pretty good.
It's pretty awesome.
So even look at this penny. It's hard to get off.
You'd be crying, you'd be hurting yourself, huh? So there's two really cool ways to apply this. The one is the one that you showed us, and that was capillary action. You can take a screwdriver, a bamboo skewer, and just go ahead and just let it drip from there.
We can show you that because look, we got a penny over here. The penny's pretty stuck right now.
It'll actually wick right in there.
Just take a couple more drops and get it on there. Hot glue actually seals water off pretty good. But what we're going to work on doing is making it get around the cracks. Once it gets in there, it just lets go and falls off.
Just lets go. Now another easy way is using...
You got on that one too.
Another easy way is using a pipette. And this can be found, I think, at drugstores, Amazon. I think even pet stores sell this for feeding small birds and things like that. But all you need to do, just drop it right there.
And watch these things just come off. That one will take a little while.
That's going to fall.
It's going to fall any second now.
Just like that. That's amazing. Look at that.
It just comes right off.
It literally just separates the stuff.
Yeah, this is a more practical thing rather than gluing cinder blocks to microwaves. Let's say we got this controller stuck on here and we glued it in the wrong position. This is really hard to get off, and I'm not going to use a heat gun to get this guy off.
Or a screwdriver.
Yep. So I'm just going to take a little bit of alcohol, get it around where I want it.
Nice thing about alcohol, it dries on naturally too, doesn't it?
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't damage any of the components too, as long as it's not powered up.
Let it soak in a little bit. Here we go.
Just comes off.
This is also good too if you say some people use this to insulate their circuit boards, you know, over like a hot glue joint. You can use this to actually ball it off of your solder joint. I did a blackout and I completely insulated everything because it was shorting out too easy. I insulate with hot glue. Well, when I had to make a repair, it was a nightmare because I was trying to melt through it and it just messed up my tip. If I knew about this hot glue tip, we would have been able to do that a
you
long
just
time.
pull it off, peel it off, and remove the shield.
And good to go. So obviously we really love hot glue, and this is just a video to help you guys choose the right gun, the right glue sticks, also different ways to apply it, like using the squeegee method, how to seal your ends, and also
applying and debonding and all that.
And that was one thing that a lot of people don't know about, and we didn't know about. We just
it gets pretty forceful, because I was doing that, ripping things apart.
Violence is never the answer, right? Friends, we want to thank you for watching. Thank you for being part of Flite Test. We also want to thank Audible.com for sponsoring this episode. If you go to audible.com/Flite Test, you can get a free Audible download book. And they have actually over 150,000 titles. And a book that we're currently listening to, and I got to actually listen to the gentleman personally, is Take the Stairs by Roy Vaden. This book actually tells you and teaches you how to identify procrastination and how to get more accomplished in the day by identifying it early and overcoming it.
You know you're looking at a procrastinator right now, Lee.
Oh, you're great, man. What are you talking about? Friends, I want to thank you for watching. Don't forget to go to audible.com/Flite Test. Get your free download book. See you next time.